Hello. Thank you for joining me today. I have a few things I would like to show you, and they are baby things, and they are things from when my kids were small, when they were babies. Some of them I used just for one, and some I used for both. Things that I saved and ended up using for both. I have some small things, and then I have some blankets. I didn't actually save a lot of stuff, but there were a few items that I thought would be nice to keep in case my kids, if they have kids, if they want to use them, they can. Just some things that were special to me. Most of their toys and things I didn't save, but there were a couple that I did. The first thing I want to show you, though, is actually not from their time as babies. They're from my time as a baby. And it's something special to me that my great-great-aunt made for me, and I was named after her. And she was a very special lady. She was born in the 1800s, and she died in 1983. And she was a very special person to me. And what she did, she made something, and my mom actually had it put in a frame to preserve it. It's kind of big, but it's a doll that she made for me. And this doll is made of fabric, obviously, and it's just a little doll, and she has yellow yarn for hair and blue eyes, because I was born with very light blonde hair and blue eyes, and she made this doll to look like me. I don't think they all looked exactly the same. I think she made some differently, but this is one that she made for me, and my mom had it put in this special frame, this box, to protect it. I don't know if it's sealed or what, but it was placed in here specifically to preserve it. And it has red and white striped fabric. I get a glare from the window if I don't hold it a certain way. But it's just this little doll. And this was mine when I was a baby. It doesn't look, it's not stained or anything, so I might not have used it much, but she did make this just for me after I was born. And she made these dolls to sell, to help make extra money. Her husband died of cancer in the 1940s, and she never remarried. So she had to support herself, which back then I think was a little unusual. She's a very beautiful woman. She could have remarried, but she chose not to. And she supported herself. She had her own business. She was kind of ahead of her time in a lot of ways. And she was a really great lady, and I think about her a lot. So it's nice to have this around, and it has a piece on the back where I can hang it on the wall. So I can hang this up and see it anytime I want to, and it always makes me think of her. So this is my thing from when I was a baby. Okay, and the other things are from my kids. I'm going to start with the small things, and then I will show you some of the other things that they had that I kept. And again, like I said, I didn't keep a lot of stuff, but these are the things that I did keep. The first one is this. It's a little terry cloth lamb, and he's very soft and squishy. And he has these little embroidered swirls in the fabric, and his four little legs are black, and his tail is black, and there's a little rattle in there like that. It's very small, and this belonged to my older child when he was a baby, and the lamb has blue eyes. And I don't remember if somebody gave me this or if I bought this. This might have been something that somebody gave me, but he liked it a lot. He liked to hold it and shake it to make it rattle. And when he was probably, I can't remember how old he was, maybe not even a year old, I would do this trick, and it wasn't very nice of me to do because it made him cry. But when he developed object permanence, when he, when the brain develops to the point where they can remember things even when they can't see them, I would do this trick with him with this lamb, which is part of the reason why I kept it, where I would show him the lamb, and I would go 1, 2, and then I would reach right back and throw it behind me. And then it would appear that I had nothing in my hand, and I would go 3, and he thought the lamb had disappeared, and he would cry. And then I would show it to him again so he'd stop. It's not very nice, I know, but I did that a few times. And he has a white mouth, little white mouth, and it's just white thread sewn in there. So he's very soft. And I cut the tag off here. So that's my first thing. And the second thing, this is from my baby shower, I think, for my first child. It's a corsage, but it's not a flower. It's made of baby booties, little tiny booties that are twisted up, and it's made to look like possibly a rose or a lily. And it has white ribbon, kind of a stiff ribbon on the bottom. And this is something that somebody made for me for my baby shower for me to wear. And this was from my first child. This was from the baby shower that my mom gave me. And it has lace at the top. And on the back, there's the pin here where I would pin it on my shirt. And it's wrapped in this flexible wrapping here. And it has little leaves on the back. And I just thought that was really cute. I never used the booties. I just left them in here. I think it's actually 2 pairs. But you can see inside where they're twisted up. And then the top is left to just splay out behind the twisted part to look like a flower. So I thought that was really cute. So I kept that. And I never could keep socks on my first child anyway. Anytime I put socks on his feet, as soon as he could, he would get them off. He'd pull them off. He couldn't stand them. And this is a teething ring. It's multicolored, and it's made of plastic. And it's made by Bright Starts. Bright Starts. We have green, a green star, and then this red swirly piece. And none of these are firmly attached. They can turn if you want to turn them. We have swirly pieces, red and blue. And some of the material is a different texture. Like this part is more of a rubber, it has more of a rubbery feel to it. And another green star. And they're all plain. The stars are all plain except for this one where it has bright starts on one side and the back is plain. And little green swirlies and blue swirlies. This one is rubbery again. And neither one of my kids actually used teething rings. They, of course, they both went through teething, which was a challenge, but neither one of them seemed to find any comfort in teething rings like this or the ones that you put in the freezer. Neither one of them had any interest in them. And they also didn't use pacifiers. I think I bought maybe 2 or 3 for each of my kids, but neither one of them had any interest in pacifiers. So I was actually okay with that, because I know a lot of people, if their kids use pacifiers, they have a hard time breaking them of that habit when they're older. So I didn't have to go through that, which was great. I don't mind that at all. I didn't, once I realized they weren't interested, I didn't try to push it. So I just left it alone. So this one, this is a teething ring. I don't remember. This might have been one I bought for my younger son. But, thinking maybe he would, when he was teething, he might be able to use it, but he never did. I don't think he ever did much with it, other than try to shake it like a rattle. So here's a teething ring. It's kind of an oval shape. And it has a little bit of flexibility to it. This one's a little bit noisy. I have to be careful with this one. And I think this was actually part of some other toy, and I'm not really sure why I kept it. This might be one of those things where after I cleared out all the baby toys when they moved on to other things, this one accidentally got left behind, so I just threw it in the container that I have for their baby toys. I don't know. There's no significance to this toy at all. I don't know why I kept it. But it's almost made like, the balls that they used to for bingo. And they have it inside that thing that looks like a big hamster ball. And they just have a handle and they can turn it to mix them. Kind of looks like that. But when you turn it, it's very loud. It's very loud noise, so I don't want to turn it much. It has pastel colored balls inside. They're lime green and sort of a lavender and blue and a light orange. And the outside is just made of plastic. And I think this was part of some toy that I had for my younger son. It does kind of look like a little hamster ball. I had a hamster when I was a kid, and we had one of those clear plastic balls that you could put him in. He loved that thing. He'd go all over the house. So, it has an open part here, which makes me think it was originally attached to something else. And the last little thing I have is not exactly little, but this belonged to my younger son, definitely. I know this was his. This is I think Fisher-Price makes this. They still make these. You can still buy them. It's a seahorse. He's very, very soft. And you can put batteries in him. And when you squeeze him right here on his little belly, he would play soothing music, but it also had other sounds to it, like ocean waves. Very calm, very peaceful. Unfortunately, the music part stopped working probably within a month of me buying it, but I just kept it. And on the back, it opens up and has Velcro, and this is where you put the batteries in. It's actually very difficult to get the batteries in and out, and then to put the battery housing back on the section that holds the batteries. It's very hard to fit it in there. It's very tight, and I'm sure they did that so the child would not be able to get in there. Plus, you have to screw it down, so it'd be very hard for a child to get in there and get anything out and put it in their mouth. I don't believe you can wash him. I've never tried to. I just wipe him off. If he gets a little dirty, I just take a wet cloth and just wipe him off. But this, my son is 6, and he still sleeps with this every night. And what he does, he does something that makes me think that he may have ASMR. Maybe not yet, but he might. Something that he does. This little tag, you can see that it's very worn. It's curled up. What he'll do to soothe himself to go to sleep, he will position this seahorse, which he named Cherry. I don't know why he calls it Cherry. He will lie this seahorse on his bed where he can get the tag between his fingers and do this. He just runs his fingers over it like that, very slowly, and it puts him to sleep. He's even tried to show me. He said he wants me to do it sometimes, and he'll ask me to do it. And when I was a baby, I did something very similar, which I don't remember, but actually my dad told me about it. When I was little, my mom used cloth diapers on me, and she also used them on my brother, who's 4 years older, but when he was a baby, she also used cloth diapers for him. And my dad told me that I would go through the clean diapers when it was time for bed. I would look through the clean diapers to find one that I said had a good corner, and I would twist the corner into a little point, and I would hold the diaper in the bed or in the crib or wherever I was and stroke my face with the twisted up little point, the corner of the diaper, and I would just stroke my face with it to fall asleep. And I would keep that diaper in the bed with me. And he said if I woke up, if I didn't stay asleep, I would just twist the corner a little more and stroke my face until I fell asleep. So possibly at least one of my kids may also have ASMR. I don't know. He is 6. I think I might have been a little bit younger than that when I had my first ASMR experience. I might have been 5. I might have been 6. I don't remember. I was right around in there somewhere. But he may still have it. I hope he does, because to me, it's such a blessing. It's such a wonderful thing. I love it. You know, it's been a big part of my life for a long time. So I kind of hope he does. It's very relaxing, very soothing. And the way I describe it to people is it's like getting a massage without even being touched. Your scalp just tingles and it feels so good. And if it's very strong, it will run down my spine, even to my legs. And it's just, I have this complete all over relaxation to the point where I get weak in the knees. I feel like I need to sit down sometimes. And I hope he does have it. It's helped me deal with a lot of stress and anxiety in my life, and it's been a real blessing to me. So this is Cherry with the little yellow ears here, or whatever they are, and the green on the top, and this on his back. It's kind of puffy, but Cherry has been around for quite a while now. And if anything happened to Cherry, I think my son would be very, very sad. It actually looks like I need to try to sew this tag back because it's starting to come loose right there. But yeah, he still sleeps with Cherry every night. And I don't think he's really ashamed of it. He doesn't care. Okay. Now the last stuff I have are blankets. I did save quite a few of their baby blankets. I didn't save all of them. I had a lot. I received a lot of baby blankets as gifts, and I had way more than I needed. But some of them I did keep. This first one is a plaid flannel blanket. And this one, I believe my older son used. He really liked it in the wintertime when it was cold. He liked it because it was soft. Plus, unlike some blankets, it doesn't feel cold to your skin when you first cover up with it. Some materials can feel kind of cold. This, flannel doesn't. And this was handmade. I don't remember who made it. Somebody made this. And on the back, it's a light blue flannel on the back. And it's not really thick or bulky, but it's the perfect size for a crib. And it has all different shades of blue and green in it, and some black. And this got used a lot in the wintertime. I think my younger son used it also. But it was one of their favorites when it was cold. And this is a bib that belonged to my older son. It's made of terry cloth, and it has a little airplane stitched on it. And the airplane is made of yellow and blue flannel. It's very soft. It's a big one too. Some bibs are kind of small, almost to the point of being useless, in my opinion. This was a nice big oversized bib that would cover his whole front. And I think this is one that he took to daycare. With both of my kids, I went back to work full time when they were 6 weeks old. So I had to supply things to the daycare center. And this was probably one of the ones I sent to them because it has his name written on the back. So whenever you take things to daycare, it's a good idea to write their name on there, first and last name. And it's reversible, and the back is yellow with circles, and it's made of the same fabric as the airplane. And It has a Velcro closure on the top. I'm not going to pull it apart because it's loud Velcro. You ever notice how some Velcro is louder than others? This is very loud Velcro. So if they fall asleep when they're taking a nap, you would just leave this bib on because it's very loud and it would probably wake them up. But it's very, yeah, this was used and washed a lot. And I think only my older son used that one because his name is the only one on it. A lot of the stuff that I used for both of them, I would just mark out my older son's first name and write in my younger son's name so they could take it to daycare. Now this is a larger blanket that my aunt made for my younger son when he was born. And it has Thomas the Tank Engine on it. And it wasn't used much. And it's very colorful. And it's lined on the back with a white soft fabric. It's sort of it almost feels like flannel. It may actually be flannel, but it's much larger than your typical crib blanket. And but my aunt put a little tag on it with her name, and she gave me this as a present after my younger son was born, which worked out pretty well because my younger son loves trains. He still does. He's been obsessed with trains since he was probably 2.5 years old. And he still loves them very much. So when I was going through my container of baby stuff last night, I showed him this, and he thought that was pretty cool. He's kind of outgrown Thomas. He doesn't really care so much for Thomas, but he still thinks trains are great. So he loves trains. He actually, he's very, very smart. Very smart. Both my kids are smart, but he's different. He's extremely smart. And he looks at the world in a different way, I think, than a lot of people. He's left-handed, which may have something to do with it. I can say that because I grew up in a family where I was the only one who was not left-handed. Everybody in my family except for me is left-handed. Both of my parents and my brother are all left-handed. And they look at the world differently. They really do. They process things differently, I think. And so my younger son's unique way of looking at things and describing things and interacting with people, and he's so smart, and his love of trains, he actually reminds me of Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. Every now and then Sheldon, if you ever watch the show, Sheldon will say something, and I will just laugh because it sounds just like something that my son as an adult would say. The reaction would be what I would expect from my younger son if he were a grown-up. So, yeah, this was for my younger son. And I'm going to save that for him. If he has kids and wants to use it, I'll let him. This one, my aunt also made me this one. She made me 2 of them. She made one for my older son, and then when my younger son was born, she made another one. And she didn't mean to. She didn't realize that the first one had Volkswagen Beetles on it. It's really trippy. It's kind of got a 60s look to it. It's made of very soft, I think it's a type of polyester. It's extremely soft and squishy. It has all different colors of Volkswagen Beetles on it. She tried to find one with Volkswagen buses, but she said she couldn't. I am a huge fan of Volkswagen buses. I've loved them forever. And I love anything with a Volkswagen on it, especially a Volkswagen bus. But she bought this fabric to make a blanket for my older son. And then she ended up making one exactly like it for my younger son, not realizing she had already made me one. She makes a lot of things. She loves to sew and make things by hand. So it almost has like a tie-dye look to it. It has peace signs on it. It's purple and white, and the peace signs are pink. And the beetles are all different colors. And it has the seams, the edges are finished with a white thread. And it's just so incredibly soft. I love this blanket. If it were a little bit bigger, I'd use it myself. But it's made to fit a standard crib, so a little too small for me. And this is just a plain white cotton blanket, but it's very beautiful. The edges are kind of ruffled. Not terribly ruffled, just a little. It was made by Elegant Baby. It was made in the Philippines for Baby Needs Incorporated. You can see the tag. And it's not super soft, but it's very warm. And it has sort of a diamond pattern to it. You can see the diamond pattern in it. You can probably actually see it better this way. I'll hold it up this way. And the stitching is a little different on the diamond part. And I use this for both kids. It's a little bit oversized, which I like because, especially with my younger son, he rolled around a lot. When he slept, he would just do laps in that crib. And my older son would pretty much, wherever you put him in the crib, he would stay there. He didn't move around much when he slept, and he still kind of does. But my older son still, I'm glad that there's he's in a loft bed, which has a piece on the side facing out to keep him in the bed, and I'm really glad it's there because I never know where he's going to be in the bed when I go in there to wake him up. He can turn all the way around and be at the other end of the bed sometimes. I don't know. He moves a lot when he sleeps. So it was good to have a blanket that was a little bit bigger so they didn't get uncovered. They weren't uncovered as easily. And then I have this blanket, which I think I bought, and it is reversible. I think I bought this before I knew whether my older son was going to be a boy or a girl. It's light yellow. And again, this one isn't super soft, but it has all different kinds of vehicles on it. We have a taxi, a bus, a big rig, and an auto. It has just all different kinds of vehicles on it. And this part is primarily white, although it has some yellow and red in it. And the edges are finished in light yellow. And the tag says it is one size, and it was made by Gymboree. It's 100% cotton. And I don't know why they felt the need to point this out, but it says it's not intended for sleepwear. So if you want to wrap your kid up in it and try to turn it into pajamas, you're not allowed to do that. You can't wrap them up like a burrito. It's against the rules. The backing is light yellow and plain, and it's finished with the same fabric. And this one was used a lot for both kids. I found out with my second child that he was going to be a boy very early. I was about 10 weeks pregnant, and I went in for a checkup, and they couldn't find his heartbeat, and it was very scary. So they did an ultrasound right away just to make sure everything was okay, and he was. They found him. He was just in a position where they couldn't get to his heartbeat when they tried the first time. But when they did the ultrasound, he was also in a position where they could see what he was. Although they told me, don't bank on it. It's really early, so it may not be a boy. We can't be 100% sure, but it looks at this point like he is, and he was. So with him, I could plan a little earlier, although I knew I shouldn't, and I did buy a few things early because I was pretty sure it was a boy. So I used this one for him too. And both of my boys love anything that goes, any kind of vehicle they think is awesome. So this blanket was a good pick for them. And I have this I bought for my older son. And I love it because it's so different. Let me get these, I'm going to move these blankets aside. This is a little jumper that I bought. And without looking, I would say it's for a 9, it's in size 9 months. No, 12 months. I'm wrong. It's a little jumper that buttons down the front. And it has a snap closure here so it's easier to change their diapers. And it snaps all the way down the inseam on the inside of the legs. Has kind of longer legs. And it is long sleeved. This was made by At Home with jumpers in Viagra. It almost looks like Viagra, but I think it's Viaga. It's hard to tell. There's a little stitching in the way, but it almost looks like Viagra. I'm pretty sure that's not what it is, but you never know. I like this jumper a lot because look, it has little intricate bugs all over it. It has insects all over it. All different kinds. You have little, it almost looks like a katydid and a praying mantis. And we have beetles. We have a moth. We have flying insects too. I've always kind of liked bugs. I just think bugs are so cool. And there are so many different kinds of bugs. There's such a wide variety on this planet of all these different insects, and I just think they're awesome. So this jumper is just covered in bugs, all different kinds. Beetles, praying mantis, another praying mantis, and a moth, and another moth, another weird looking beetle. And this almost looks like something that would sting me, so I don't like him. I don't like the ones that sting. And this little beetle. And it's all over. It's covered in all these beautiful bugs. They're made to almost look real. They don't look childish or cartoonish. They look real. And there's a big old, some kind of cricket. They almost look like we have these crickets here that get in people's basements. They like dark, damp places. And some kind of Asian cricket. I can't remember what they're called, but they're about this big and they're brown. And they have really long legs. Their legs are so long. And they're a nuisance around here. A lot of people have trouble with those crickets. And they can just take over your basement. And when I was still in college, I rented this apartment in an older part of town. And it was built back in the 20s. And I loved the apartment. It was great. It was really big. It had a front porch and a back porch. The back porch was screened in, which was great. And it had a basement, which I was free to use if I wanted to. But I only went down there once, and it was like something out of a Stephen King horror story. It was very dark, and you had to go down this very narrow, steep set of stairs to get into it. And the stairs were very, very narrow, maybe 20 inches. I mean, they were super narrow. And it was very dark in there. But you had to descend the entire set of stairs to get to the light switch. So it was very dark in there. I took a flashlight with me because I had been warned that it was dark getting down to the light. And as I was walking, and I was warned of these crickets ahead of time, I was told that, they are there. And one may jump on you. Don't freak out. It's just a cricket. It's not a creature trying to get you. And I had probably 4 or 5 of them jump on me going down those steps trying to get to the light. It was not a pleasant experience. I got down there, I turned on the light, and it was so damp and musty down there. I thought, I'm not putting anything down here. No, I'm not using this area for storage. No. So I got myself back up out of there. It was really horrifying down there. It was like a place where you would end up if somebody wanted to murder you. So I didn't go down there anymore. Now, where did that cricket go? But yeah, they almost look like this cricket, only the legs were a lot longer. They came way up. This part where it bends, the joint was way up higher than this. I can't remember what kind of cricket it was. But I didn't like them, and I'm glad that I don't have to deal with them anymore. So this belonged to my older son. I think my younger son wore it too. I believe he did. But as you know, if you have kids, you know that kids outgrow their baby clothes so fast. I mean, most of them don't even really have time to get used much. In fact, I had some that never got used at all. Like if they were a gift or something I bought in advance, they outgrew the clothes so fast that I just never wore them. A lot of them I donated to Goodwill or gave to other people with kids. So, but this one was used, and I thought it was really neat. Now, one more thing. It's actually a set of 3 things put together. It is this I bought for my older son before he was born. And it's a button down, kind of like a jacket. And it has a little dog with a suitcase on the front, and it's embroidered. And it says, "We're there." And the dog's got his little tongue sticking out. And it buttons in the front with little blue buttons. And then the back is just plain. This was made by Carter's, and it is size 3 to 6 months. So he probably fit into this size for about 5 minutes, and then he outgrew it. But it comes with these little pants. And these have the dog again. And like a little house or a castle right here. And it's an airplane. And some sort of fat little vehicle with a dog's nose on the front. It's just these cute little pants, and they have a little elastic waist. And yeah, he didn't wear these long at all before he outgrew them. And a matching blanket. The blanket actually got used more than the clothes did. And it's also reversible. See, this carries on the same theme with the dog and the little... It's either a house or a castle. I'm not exactly sure. But it says, "Adventure Trip. We're there." And "Going home." And the underside is sort of a yellow and light brown stripe. And the blanket got used quite a bit. And I think this was put somewhere where I forgot about it, because I don't think my younger son ever wore it. But both of them outgrew those sizes so fast, as all babies do, that they didn't get used much at all. So that's everything I have. Of course, I have baby books, and there's probably some more stuff in those from when they were little. But these were things that I had in a tote up in the attic, and I was going through it last night and thought I would do a video on it. So I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again sometime.